Hello and welcome to Progressive Outreach. In today's video, I'm going to discuss the question framework that I use for political outreach. And I have a four-step approach, so we'll go through that. However, before we go any further, I do want to say that I am not affiliated with the Bernie campaign. I am doing this because I'm one of the 1 million volunteers that he currently has, and my goal is to get all progressives elected, so including Bernie Sanders. So let's get right into it. The first thing that we're going to do is talk about the introduction, and it's simple. I simply say, "Hi, my name is Joe and I'm conducting street interviews. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?" I do this because I don't want to let people know that it's going to be a political discussion. I just want to ask them a few questions. So my phase one is to get to know the person. A closed-ended question is a question where it's a yes or no answer or a 1 or 2 word answer. And I start with asking them, are you planning on voting in the 2020 election? Do you intend on voting in the Democratic primary as well? Have you voted before? How are you registered? Are you a registered independent, Republican, or Democrat? And have you always voted that way? Now, if they say that they are voting in the primary, and if you are in a closed primary state, then you need to know and let them know that only registered Democrats can vote in the primary of a closed primary state. To find rules for your state, you can go to voteforbernie.org and look up your state on that page. Now, phase 2 is I find out the issues. I try to get 1 or 2 issues, so I'll ask them, what are some of the issues that are most important to you? Hopefully they will list 1 or 2 things, and if they can't think of anything, you can always suggest healthcare, climate change, Social Security, women's rights, and many others. So if you can get 1 or 2, you're going to use that in the next phase. The next phase will be to try to get them to say corruption. Now, for this, I do not say the word corruption, or at least I try not to. I do this by asking what I call open-ended questions, which are questions that get them to elaborate a little bit more, questions that will make them think. So, for example, if they say climate change, I'll say, why do you think it is that we haven't solved climate change? Companies care about profits, so if a company gave money to a politician, how do you think that that would affect them? I can ask, if we voted for someone who takes money from large corporations, do you think that they would work for us, the people, or work to please their corporate donors? With this line of questioning, I should get them to say the word corruption, and once I do that, I'll go in for the close. So I'll say, would you agree that corruption is the biggest issue we face, and that if we got rid of corruption, a lot of these issues would get fixed? Most people would say yes to that. And then I would continue by saying, how important would it be for you to have a president who wasn't paid by billionaires and corporations? As you can see, I'm moving them toward Bernie. And then I would ask, who would you like to see as president, and do they take corporate PAC money? So money in politics has been the biggest problem. It's the reason why we don't have health care, and the reason that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. This election is about getting money out of politics. Bernie Sanders has been in politics for over 40 years and does not take corporate PAC money. Would you be open to keeping in touch with Bernie Sanders' campaign and learning more about how he's fighting for regular working people? Usually people would say yes, that they would be open to that. You would say, that's great and thank you. And you could add them to the Burn app at this point and go over some business card info. So the business card info is basically a handout that I would like people to have when they come away with the conversation from me. And it also lists a few organizations, wolf-pac.com and the Justice Democrats. Both of those organizations are dedicated to getting money out of politics. And then you have opensecrets.org, which is an organization that keeps track of the money in politics. The back of the business card has a QR code for vote.org. So if you've come across someone who is not registered, you can register them with that QR code. And I also want them to continue their political knowledge by going towards some progressive YouTube channels. So I always mention some of these here, including the Young Turks and others. Now, this is the Burn app. You should have this loaded before you go canvassing for Bernie. If you're canvassing for other progressive candidates, other Justice Democrats, obviously you wouldn't enter them in here, but this is for canvassing strictly for Bernie. You can go to it by app.berniesanders.com or downloading it from the Apple or Play Store. Now, this sheet is created so that if you are not within Wi-Fi range, or if you're getting bombarded by too many people, you can have them sign in here, and then you can add them to the app when you are in Wi-Fi area. Now, let's discuss some tips. So number one, stay calm. The way I do it is I pretend that I'm an actual reporter and that I'm being filmed. Now, in my case, I am going to film all of my encounters so that you can see how my success has been, or how I speak differently depending on the voter in front of me. Tip number two, don't let your personal view known. You don't want to be in an argumentative state. If you want to say that you feel Bernie Sanders is X, Y, and Z, I would rather you say that, quote, some people feel X, Y, and Z. This way it keeps you out of the specific discussion. Number three, always acknowledge what they say. You don't want to interrupt them, and you don't have to agree with them, but people have a need to be heard. Tip number four, ask open-ended questions in order to help them come to the conclusion themselves. A quote from Blaise Pascal: people are usually more convinced by reasons they discovered themselves than by those found by others. Tip number five, don't pounce. What I mean is, I want you to take smaller steps. If I get them to say corruption, I'll say, well, how does corruption affect you? Or how does corruption affect the voting? I don't want to jump from them saying corruption straight to, well, you have to vote for Bernie Sanders. So I don't want to do that. That would be pouncing. And tip number six is find common ground. So even with a Trump supporter, you can find common ground by saying, well, you're passionate, I'm passionate. That means that we both really care about our country. Would you agree with that? Once you say something like that, or once you ask a question like that, they can see that you're not really their enemy, and you want to stay on their side. If you're talking to a corporatist, you can still be on the side of acknowledging that there is corruption. So in there, you can agree. Once you do that, your conversation is going to go a lot better. You can support this channel by simply liking the videos, watching the videos to the end, and add comments in the comments section. You can also share this video, but please only to other progressives like yourself. Now, if you can spare a few bucks, you can become a patron at our patreon.com/progressive outreach page, where I'll use half to continue making content like this, and the other half will go toward donations to other progressives, so either to Bernie himself or to any other candidate that is endorsed by the Justice Democrats. And as a special bonus, all monthly donors will automatically get emailed current and future canvassing materials. Thank you guys so much in advance, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.